2020 was a huge year for the MacBook Pro with the launch of those first M1 chips from Apple. But there's a lot of rumors and reporting about what's coming next, and if you believe those, the 2021 MacBook Pro is going to be even more amazing. This is Luke with Digital Trends, and I've got 4 reported features that could be coming in the new 2021 MacBook Pro, and I'm going to get to them right now. But first, leave a comment below and let me know which feature you really want to see come to the new MacBook Pro this year. And while you're there, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more content from Digital Trends. But let's get to that first feature, because I think a lot of people are going to be excited about this one. Now, what's interesting is a lot of the features that are rumored to come to the 2021 MacBook Pro are actually undoing a lot of the things that Apple has done to the MacBook Pro over the past few years. And this first one is definitely a clear indication of that, and that's port selection. That's right, the 2021 MacBook Pro might finally bring back a wealth of ports. Say goodbye to that hashtag dongle life. Part of me still doesn't believe this is actually going to happen, because this is a trend that Apple itself started back in 2015 of removing ports and simplifying port selection. But hey, they got rid of those nasty butterfly switch keyboards just last year, so anything is possible. Now here's what we're actually talking about making a return. We're talking HDMI, we're talking a full-size SD card slot. Yeah, that's for real. But the most interesting of the 3 is definitely the return of MagSafe power charging. That one really has me scratching my head, because it sort of implies that we might stop using USB-C for charging, which brought a lot of convenience and innovation to that space when they started doing that in 2015. Now, I'm sure Apple has something new planned for MagSafe. They're not just going to rip that technology out of the 2015 MacBook Pro and put it in the new ones verbatim. But either way, Apple clearly plans to bring some new ports, from what we can tell, to the MacBook Pro, and that's a good thing. What these new MacBook Pros might not have, though, is the Touch Bar. That's right, the promising but ultimately disappointing feature might be on its last legs, and I, for one, can't wait to have my function row keys back. I still don't think this is the end of Apple's innovation around touchscreens and replacing keyboards with touchscreens. I think they're investing a lot in this technology, but for now, it looks like we're going to be going back to an old school setup with physical function row keys, and I think that's a safe bet for now. Another thing that Apple may be cutting out of the new MacBook Pros are the bezel size around the screens. Following in the footsteps of the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which went from a 15-inch screen to a 16-inch screen, I think this 13-inch MacBook Pro is going to be hopping up to that 14-inch screen size. That doesn't mean just a bigger screen, though. It also means less bezels on top and bottom. After seeing what companies like Dell and HP have done in the past few years, Apple has really been behind on this on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, so it's about time that they caught up. More than just larger screens, though, the rumor is that Apple's going to be bringing a new panel technology to these new MacBook Pros for the very first time, and that's Mini LED. It's a newer form of backlighting that should produce brighter screens, deeper blacks, and higher contrast. It's getting closer to what you can do with the individually lit pixels of OLED. It's an interesting move for Apple, because there are a lot of laptops that already use OLED screens, but they tend to come in only the most expensive configurations exclusively. Mini LED is a little bit cheaper, and it allows Apple to bring that goodness to all of its different models of the MacBook Pro. Now, the last reported feature that I want to talk about is possibly the most important one, but it's also the one where we have the least amount of information, and that's performance. We don't know if the rumored M1X chip is going to show up in the 15-inch MacBook Pro, but we definitely know it's coming to the 16-inch model, and according to some of these leaked benchmarks, it's going to be insanely powerful. We're talking about a 12-core CPU, with 8 of those cores being high-performance cores that can be used for heavy lifting. The current 16-inch MacBook Pro uses the top-of-the-line Intel Core i9 processor, which comes with 8 cores. But if we've learned anything about the efficiency of these M-series processors, it's gonna blow the Intel one out of the water. And I, for one, really hope that this M1X chip actually comes to the 14-inch MacBook Pro, because that was one of my main problems with the initial rollout of the M1 chips last year. The MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro used the exact same processor, and that meant they almost had identical performance, and that made it really hard to justify the higher price of the MacBook Pro. So Apple, make more use of that fan. Make it a little thicker if you need to, but please bring that M1X chip to the 14-inch MacBook Pro and make it worthy of the Pro designation. Now, all of that is super exciting, but there is one feature that I haven't heard a single rumor about that really makes me sad, because I think this needs to be in the next MacBook Pro, and that's a better webcam. Because come on, it's 2021, we would all appreciate having at least a 1080p webcam in our MacBooks. More than just a sharper image though, I'm really hoping that Face ID comes to MacBooks, because this is an area where iOS devices and Windows PCs are both ahead of the game. But I haven't heard a single rumor about that, so we may have to keep waiting. The good news is we don't know exactly when these new MacBook Pros are gonna come out, so in the coming months, I'm sure we'll hear more about rumored features that are coming to these new laptops, so there's always a chance, fingers crossed. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. Again, make sure to leave a comment below and let me know which of these rumored features you are most excited about, which is gonna make you actually buy this new MacBook Pro. And while you're here, make sure to click like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel, and you'll get more videos from Digital Trends like these two, which I think you're gonna enjoy.